spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I can go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is Cade. This episode, a quick recap on the loss. It is a misery Monday. We lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, 37-20. So we're going to give you our thoughts on it. We have a comment mailbag, as we always do. And before we begin this episode, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and Cade.
Typically share this shit unless I talk about the Commanders beating the Buccaneers and don't share it.
In which case, don't share. But please.
Overall, share this shit.
Most of it. Appreciate it. Without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. Right. So we lose 37-20. It is week one. You're told not to overreact to week one. A lot can change over the course of a season, of course. Cade, I'll just throw it to you immediately. How are you feeling after this game, and what were your takeaways or thoughts on it?
I feel depressed. No, man. I'm still. Look, what have I said from the beginning? No one's going to take me off the high I'm on about this football season, baby. Ain't nobody going to rain on my parade, okay? Especially since it's been an amazing first weekend of football, so that's just fucking great.
True.
Can't wait for the second half of this fucking Sunday night game, even though it's less fireworks than I expected. All right, to the Commanders. I guess the way that you've told me to frame it is let's stick to one side of the ball and then we'll move to another side of the ball, right? So now I'm thinking, okay, we want to start with something positive because I got a lot of thoughts, tons of thoughts. So let's go offense first because I think there was less happening there. And Jayden Daniels. Those feet work. Good job, son. Your legs work. Good. It's good to know. It's good to know you can run. Yeah. Look, man. Dan Quinn said something in the post game, and this is pretty much going to sum up my thoughts about all of it. And shout out to Nikki for right. You need to struggle to see the identity develop. You don't want it, but you need it. That happened tonight. That's where we're at. Offensively, look, man, Brian Robinson in short bursts, he had some moments where he looked pretty good. It was hard to really establish a rhythm with what it is they were doing offensively. Austin Ekeler really shined to me every time he touched the football. It was almost to the point where it's I wanted to just see more of all of it, I guess, but it seemed as though offensively they were really, really trying to figure out. I think even the comment, Moose was saying, and he was like, it feels as though what Cliff was alluding to was that he was going to be we're going to try things and see what sticks, what is the identity. And that's kind of what it felt like. It didn't feel completely cohesive as much as it was all right, here's some concepts that look kind of cool. Let's see if Jayden can kind of get in a rhythm on anything. I didn't really see the rhythm until later on in the game when they started going that no huddle and hurry up offense. Where that's where you typically say the 2-minute offense, you start seeing that happen to pretty much everybody, right? Tends to do all right. There were some things that I was all right, that looks cool. The Luke McCaffrey would look like it was going to be an option throw to him, and then a good job on his part by saying, all right, fuck it, I'm not going to do that, right? Offensive line wise, there was some. I think overall they did okay, maybe better than even some might expect. Brandon Coleman had a couple good moments in the game, especially on that run that Robinson had as far as that touchdown. Coleman actually did a pretty good job sealing on the outside. Both the tight ends, John Bass and Ben Sennett, they had their moments on blocking too. Positive. Luke McCaffrey's as far as the targets to catch ratio. Still high as shit,
3
right?
for 3.
That was dope. I mean, I keep talking about that, right? They tried to get Terry involved. I think it was a little late when they tried to just kind of force him the ball and was this, that, and the other. It felt like a new offense that hasn't had a chance to really work together in game time yet, and not entirely sure who they are.
I think you nailed it with when I can't remember who was talking about it on the broadcast, but they talked about Cliff Kingsbury saying, "Hey, we're still figuring it out," which was an interesting quote because you go, "Okay, well, you would hope that's what training camp's for, that's what preseason's for, and you have a plan." Not to say they don't, but clearly they're still figuring out what they have.
Yeah.
We'll get to that on defense as well, but on offense. Jayden Daniels looked good, right? 16 carries for 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, that's not what you necessarily want him doing. That's a very high total for carries, right? Like that cannot be a sustainable, hopefully not the plan type thing. Like you said, you're glad his legs work. They do. It's electric. It's fun to watch. Absolutely. But that needs to change over time. And maximum number of targets for anybody was 4 with Austin Ekeler, Brian Robinson, and Zach Ertz. So those are your running backs and tight ends. Terry also had 4, but again, that came kind of late. How I'm feeling, still generally upbeat though, and positive because this is a long season. Week 1, stuff happens. So
Right.
it doesn't always make sense. I think this one did, to be honest, but I do see us improving because everything's new right now. It's the reason I picked us to lose is because I was thinking there might be some miscommunications. There may be some penalty. Like it's just everything's so new. It's going to take a little bit for it to all come together. So at offense, Jayden I thought was fine throwing the ball. Missed one to Terry that he even said in his postgame presser that he wanted back. And Lord knows our fan base wanted it back because that would have been electric.
It would have won me money.
There you go. And so it would, he will improve. And Luke McCaffrey looks like he's going to be more involved, which is exciting. And I think Ben Sinnott, they tried the screen to him, but it got blown up very, very quickly. Offensive line held up enough. I'm looking forward to seeing more run balance, more Brian Robinson, more Austin Ekeler, to your point. I would be pretty excited to see them with more carries. Brian Robinson had 12. Austin Ekeler had 2. Austin Ekeler also had 4 catches for 52 yards. And Brian Robinson, anytime the guy touches the ball, he also looks dynamic, K-Dot. So those are my thoughts. I feel good about it. I think the team's going to improve quite a bit. And yeah, it was just sort of expected, in my opinion.
What?
That's all I got.
Oh, can we get a negatives now? Go
ahead.
Yeah, it was just sloppy, man. It was fucking sloppy as shit. The first series, the backwards pass that was put them on their back foot and it blew up that entire drive from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bad miss by and we saw that even early in the first preseason game where he kind of sailed the ball over somebody's head. It was, I don't know if it's jitters or whatever, he's a little too hype.
It was the first play both times. So.
Very right. First play, it's just like, oh wow, okay, maybe
stop calling that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was rough. There was 2 questions that are very lingering to me on the offense, and they're mainly around they're both solely on Jayden. Number 1, what the fuck is going on with this helmet?
He does not have it strapped tight. I can tell you that because it fell actually on a play where he didn't get hit. And I remember being like, it's going to fall. And then it did 2 plays later.
That was weird. And I heard in the post game, he was like, oh yeah, it used to happen in college too. And it's no big deal to me. And I'm like, it's a big fucking deal, bro. Like, keep your goddamn helmet. It cost that touchdown. Like, it was like, dude, nobody wants to see you doing that. And like, it's so off-putting to see your quarterback with his fucking helmet off after so many plays. And I've never seen that in my life.
He did look pretty awesome when he gestured for the first down, though, after the hit. That was dope. I agree with you, just to be clear. I just thought it was a dope moment.
And then the second thing, the slides. What the fuck is this? What are you doing? Like, what are these slides you're doing? What? It's just.
I don't have a big problem with those slides.
Number 1, they're not slides.
Well, sure. I don't have the problem with the way he's downing himself.
You should.
I currently don't.
You should.
Maybe when his back breaks or something.
So
like you know what? You were right, K-Dot.
What's like the helmet to helmet hit?
Mm-hmm. Penalty,
got us the yards, whatever. But that's because of how awkward he's coming down. There's no way to gauge what's happening when you go down like that. It's not even like you have some running backs will go down, but they don't slide, right? But they know how to protect themselves and go down in a measured way. You got the best quarterbacks that know how to slide are usually ones that play baseball because baseball is a part of the sport, right?
Right.
And if you haven't played baseball, it's awkward to even learn and practice how to slide on grass compared to others. And I know he said that he's never practiced it. And I'm not saying he has to. I'm just saying that he's got to find a better way to go down that looks more cohesive than what he's doing right now. Because when he's going down the way he's going down, those body parts are going to be flailing in ways that they shouldn't. And when you have it not, I remember Jerome Bettis talked about this years ago. And, Jerome Bettis, big bruising back. And he was saying that he was talking to some of his counterparts. And they were like, yo, you need to learn how to go down. And he's like, what? He's like, look, as a running back, you got to learn how when you're getting tackled and it's over, you've got to go down. But you got to go down properly. Because if you don't go down properly, if your leg or your joints are up in certain areas, they're going to get sandwiched. They're going to get crushed. They're going to get twisted. Something's going to happen, and you're not going to make it out of that pile. And then he had to learn, and it even saved him, he said, as far as the ice tub bats after the game. He said it was a big thing for him. I'm just saying it's too uncoordinated looking for what it is that he needs to be doing. That's it. Also, the design runs looked horrific.
I'm not a big fan of the design runs.
Never really been. To me, unless you're a quarterback pushing 230, I've never been a fan of it. They just always look awkward. I'm completely for, hey, drop back, and one of your options should be, hey, if you see it, run. Just go for it. But the quarterback draws just look extremely awkward, especially with us and him and the way that he was playing. Yeah, and then we talked about it, but like the offensive cohesiveness and getting there, I know it'll come with time. I think everybody that's kind of freaking out on the offense has got to be reminded about a few things, right? Like I keep comparing this team like the Detroit Lions, who were watching tonight play with Dan Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
They won or tied their first 11 games. Lost or tied their first 11 games.
Yeah.
Lost or tied their first 11 games his first season ago. Peyton Manning, when he came in his rookie season, they didn't win shit. They won 3 games that year.
That's the record for interceptions thrown. Goes on to be one of the
following
greatest
year, 13-3. So I'm like, you've got to understand that this is all part of the process. And I love that Jayden was getting real-time reps in the game. Nothing ever looked too big for him. I will say that as far as what I was seeing with the runs, the legs look good. I did not see him looking downfield to throw enough on the runs.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed as though he was just going to go.
Sort of bailed quickly, saw there's space, I'll take it.
I'm just going to take it. I still want to see him, because I still think if you got a guy like him with his speed on the outside, and you have safeties, you got linebackers that are looking and be like, oh shit, he's going to go. The looks as far as what's going to happen down the field might be a bit different. Stuff might open up.
If I could jump in, I think this is where having Cliff Kingsbury could be quite helpful, because I think now they're going to have their very first, what was it, Tell the Truth Mondays. They're going to have the film sessions, and they've got the live reps of his very first game. And they may look at some of those and go, okay, see, if you keep your eyes downfield here, these guys have committed to you. You may start seeing guys commit to you because you look to bail pretty quickly. You may have something over the top there. You may have something in the middle section of the field. So I anticipate improvement there, K-Dot.
No, I'm hoping so. And I can't wait to see the All-22 on this game. I got my NFL premium bet because I need my red zone. So I'll definitely be looking at the All-22 because there wasn't a lot of shots of the entire field in this television broadcast, especially. It was a lot of stuff near the line of scrimmage.
Right.
And what I was seeing, I didn't see receivers getting a whole lot of separation, but once again, I couldn't see downfield. So
it felt
I'm really
like that,
curious
though,
what
right?
was there.
So that's going to be a mix. I feel like that's going to be a mix of Jayden going, screw it, I'm running.
Right.
And other times maybe holding it, going through a second read, going, oh, I don't really like that either. Because he does seem pretty decisive, whether it's running off of the first read or just throwing to the first read or throwing to a second read pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that's where we're going with the thinking of maybe the wide receivers were not getting the separation that he wanted.
Right. And that's why I'm very curious to see the All-22. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what he was seeing.
Yeah. If I could throw in a negative, it's for me, Brian Robinson and Austin Ekeler's carry totals. Mm-hmm. So Brian Robinson averaged 3.3 yards per carry, which is not good, right? That is not a good average. However, I like what it does when we do commit to it. It takes pressure off of the offensive line. It gives to me, one of our best playmakers the ball consistently, and he's a bruiser. He plays big. And Austin Ekeler, like you said, looked like Austin Ekeler from 2 years ago, not the one from last year, but the one from 2 years ago. Healthy. And he's in the backfield. So I think giving those guys the ball more in the running game specifically will take pressure off of the offensive line, allows them to push instead of wait for the rush to come, allows them to dominate, allows them to impose their will, and also gives Jayden time all of a sudden once he is throwing. So I'd like to see more balance moving forward. I don't have a problem with the average for today's game. I just want to be able to commit to it because I think it makes everything easier. I think it's all connected that way. And to me, it starts with running.
Agreed wholeheartedly. There should, once again, like you said, the average don't matter that much to me as much as committing to it. That I would say that there should never be a situation. I hope this is the last time I'm seeing the combined carries of Austin Ekeler and Brian Robinson not matching that of the carries of Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, Jayden out carried them 16-14. I don't want to see that either. Just to be, yeah. And so that's the offensive side of the ball. Anything else you want to add before we flip to the defense?
No, I mean, some stuff that'll still be on the offense, but more holistically whole team sort of stuff. So we can move on to defense.
Okay, let's move on to the defense, Cade. So once again, the floor is yours. What were your thoughts, takeaways, etc.?
Positives. Jamin Davis had some moments.
Had a very nice tackle for loss there. A swim move on Tristan Wirfs.
Very nice. Bobby Wagner. Sorry, I'm gonna have to break my rule a little bit. Started negative. Started pretty negative.
Sure.
About 2.5, 3/4 of negative. then he had some, and then it was like, oh, Wagner woke up. Cool.
3 tackles for loss.
So that was good to see. St. Juice had an amazing near pick, and I think it's his birthday.
Yep.
So
can I sorry, I just want to jump in there and just say that I think that is the coaching that's beginning to take place, because I don't remember any of our corners last season trying to sit on that and actually get it right. Last season. So now it was just one moment, and we got a lot to get to on this defense, but that was encouraging immediately to see St. Juice use instincts to drive towards the ball and almost come away with that pick. But go ahead.
No doubt. Once again, saying positive, so there's a second part to that, but I'm gonna keep it right there.
Of course.
And then along that same line, lots of good pressure at moments on Baker. So there are some stats that you start looking at when it comes to these teams that develop pass rushers, where you start realizing sacks are not necessarily as important as pressures. In the sense of, if you could pressure certain quarterbacks and get them off rhythm, that usually leads to them making mistakes, so them not completing necessarily.
It was not the case this time.
We're staying positive.
You're right. Sorry. That was on me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm down with the positive. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is like the pressure is good, but then to get to the negative, you gotta fucking finish it. You gotta finish it. What I hated was that up through probably about the fourth quarter, maybe it was the third quarter, when you looked at Baker Mayfield's stat line, there was one point where he had 2 incompletions, and you realized the 2 incompletions had nothing to do with this.
Not only were the 2 incompletions nothing to do with this, are we on the negative side? Yeah, those were walking touchdowns. Yeah,
that's it.
Okay.
There's not a lot of positive to say about it. I think I touched the most positive I could say, which was like Davis had some moments. Wagner got better. St. Juice almost had a pick. I don't. There's nothing else I got.
I don't have anything else either.
But it's not finishing, and then Baker's still completing everything, which means that the secondary was getting burnt as fuck. Because usually what you mean is if you have the pressure and the secondary is working in the position that's what we're working in, then you're supposed to have plays getting made. But they didn't have any of that. So that's where you talk about defensive cohesiveness as a whole, and how the defensive line might have been doing their jobs to some degree. Secondary wasn't backing them up. Linebackers, I thought overall did okay, but they can't really shine if nothing else is working the way it's supposed to work. You know what I mean? So it's your defense, you could have one solid unit, but unless one unit's being absolute fucking rock stars, I guess, and just game breakers, right, you can't sustain anything easily. And overall, it was an extremely bad performance by everybody. Yeah, St. Juice, he gets the almost pick, and then look, I'll give him credit. I don't know how better you're supposed to play that. Mike Evans touchdown.
No, I by the way, put 0 of that on him. Just to be totally honest.
That's rough.
Mike Evans is one of the best to do it. He shows his hands late. That's really hard to guard.
That's a hell of a throw by Baker.
Yeah, that's just, I don't put that on St. Just. I think that happens to any of our corners.
Yeah, I mean, it might happen to any cornerback in the league, honestly.
Right. That's what I'm trying. Thank you. That's a much better way of putting it. A great throw. They even said it on the broadcast. They're like, that's just great football from both of them. Like,
it looked insane. It looked like it didn't look like a video game. Like, I was, the fuck? What?
Yeah.
He set his hand right there. The ball was just there. Like, what? It was like animation.
I know we're negative. I'm just not knocking St. Just for that one.
I'm not. I'm just in Forbes, man. Not a great day. But once again, I'm not even going to single them out. The defense just didn't play up to stuff. And I will say that, like, as much as I am, and we'll get to where it is that we're feeling about the team overall and the progress and all that kind of stuff, but I'd be remiss, anyone would be remiss if they didn't think before this season started, Joe Witt, Dan Quinn, blah, 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 and to see the defense perform that way against Tampa Bay, not a great feeling.
Baker Mayfield, 24 of 30, 289 yards, 9.6 average, 4 touchdowns, no picks, sacked once.
Quarterback rating was 140 something?
146.4. So if we're going to play against Patrick Mahomes every week, we're going to have a problem, right? I mean, that's what we cannot continue to turn these quarterbacks into, I mean, Hall of Famers every single time we play them. Do I think that will continue? I don't think so. I do think this is why, again, predicting the loss, some miscommunications to be expected, in my opinion. The whole thing feels new. I think it will get better over time. So just going back to the positive for the moment. And St. Just even said so in his press conference after, or I guess, I don't know if it was a press conference, but like chatting with reporters after the game. And he said, hey, communication is like the most important thing that we're picking up on right now. I'm paraphrasing. And that it needs to be there across the board, because that will already take away, I think he said something along the lines of 21 points, right? A lot of blown coverages, a lot of what felt like last year's defense we saw again today. So, or, yesterday, excuse me. So I expect that Joe Witt Jr., I expect that Jason Simmons, I expect these guys to go in, see that film, and simplify things more. Because again, we keep talking about playing fast, and I do buy into the coaching staff. I think they will be able to play fast, and I think they will be able to perform. It just may take a little bit of time. Thankfully, we play the Giants next week, which should be, in theory, easier, in theory. But we'll see. I mean, we'll have that Friday 2 p.m. episode as we always do for that. But I just wanted to provide a little bit of encouragement. I like the pressure from the defensive line. I really, really like the pressure from the defensive line. Baker was magnificent yesterday. Damn it. Second time where he's just escaping. It was crazy. It was just an absolute escape artist over there. I couldn't believe it a couple of those times.
I love Baker. I don't think he's as good as that game. I
agree. I think he was on one.
No, I think we allowed it. There was some, I was still trying to look at body language for some of the guys. I'm not trying to call anybody out yet. Still early in the season. One guy in particular did an amazing pregame speech I actually clipped for this podcast in case we won. I didn't love a lot what I saw today from him. But I liked that the defensive line pressure seemed to be consistent throughout a lot of the game. At least they had moments throughout the game. I hated that they didn't finish. I hate that we hear these things about the arriving aggressively and about how communication is the biggest thing. And they might have arrived aggressively, but didn't finish shit as far as from a tackling standpoint. Yeah. And communication might be key in Ashburn. And yet the secondary, the unit that's supposed to be the bread and butter of this particular coaching staff, was already fucking it up early on. Once again, I know they have to unlearn a lot of things from last year and they're in real time. So it's one of those things where it's like, look, I'm not in a situation where it's like the sky is falling or anything. This is all part of that process. Nothing that happens over the course of the season, barring injury, is going to bring me down from where it is I feel as far as the long-term prospects of this team. I feel great about the long-term prospects of this team. I like this coaching staff. I like these things. But I'll be damned. And I know that the thing is, I would expect guys like Dan Quinn and Joe Witt, if they heard me say this, they'd agree with me, on this was a disappointment and a bit of a failure on everybody's part.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So while I am, maybe getting excited for the future here, make no mistake about it. Once again, what was that? 24 of 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. This was a horrible performance. This was objectively a horrible performance. However, I do think it'll get better. 9 of 13 on third down. I mean, these guys got to stay on the field as long as they wanted to. It has to improve. Absolutely has to improve. We're just 1 week into this. I don't want to overreact to week 1. That's
I
where
still
and I know
think
you're
it
not.
will improve. I'm not saying it has to because look, they have 1 strike. I mean, I'm not saying like 3 strikes. It's not a 3-strike situation. But as far as looking at the Rolodex of things, this game, net negative. You got to make it up. Because then the team overall, outside of just offensive and defense, third down. What the fuck? Be it the penalties that converted into first downs, the conversions that we would have from a third down that then get brought back because of penalties, the third downs on defense that we were allowing the guy to give up. This is something that was a mainstay from last year that was the most one of if not the most annoying thing was how we had this reprehensible connection to third downs. And it felt like a carryover. Didn't like that. From a coaching staff standpoint, I will not. Why don't you go for 2?
That is a very good question. They asked Dan Quinn about that. You heard his answer, I assume?
I did not.
Okay, so he basically said it was late into the third. He felt like they were going to have about 3 more drives to be able to work with. He just felt it was too early. That was his feel on it. I agree with you, K-Dot. When we scored, I was like, let's go for 2. Let's make this a 1-possession game and put some pressure on these guys. And if we miss, well, we now know that we're down by 10 instead of down by 8 or 9.
It's a bad call. And
I agree.
And if I'm looking at Dan Quinn as being the reason you were so high on my pick list of coaches is you learn from mistakes. You better learn from this one. I'm surprised if you haven't learned this enough already with your experience. That was a bad call. Outside of that, from a communication standpoint, burning a timeout 9 seconds into the second half, there's nothing good with that. Like, there are certain shit that's happening where I'm looking at the coaching staff and I'm like, hey, get your guys in line or figure this shit out on your own as far as what it is you're doing from a time management standpoint or even the scoring standpoint. Because that didn't make sense. You go for 2, you don't go for 2 then you go for 2 later, and it's like, what are you thinking? I don't want to ever think that the coaching staff or the head coach especially is lost in the sauce when it comes to a particular situation. I want to know that you guys are fucking drilling it. I want to know that it's not, this is the first time I'm ever experiencing this thing. That's why I wanted your experience. I don't want dumb shit happening that if Ben Johnson was the head coach and something like this happens because he doesn't have experience with it, I'm like,
no,
okay.
But he would still go for 2. Ben Johnson would, but that's beside the point. Understood.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, at the end of because of who he is, right? But I'm like, if
Correct.
you're a first-time head coach and you're like, oh, man, I kind of fucked it up. I don't want to see shit like that if you've been around the league this long. This is why I wanted you.
No, I think that's totally fair. And so on to next week, play against the Giants. Go ahead.
One more thing, because we cannot go without this. Cade York needs to go.
You think it needs to go immediately? So it's sort of funny because I was gonna bring up Cade York just before because I figured we did offense defense, so this worked perfectly.
Okay.
You cannot miss those 2 kicks. I agree. The 56-yarder, okay, whatever. But it didn't help that Chase made his. Right at the very beginning of the game, Chase hits his, and then Cade to me definitely was jittery. Was like, I don't know. The kick out of bounds
that was
not good. And by the way, if you hear Dan Quinn talk about it, he's visibly pissed off. Like, so I wouldn't be surprised if they end up moving on from the guy. I think they're going to give him another week.
I'm out on that because I think regardless of whether or not he's a good guy, this guy, or whatever, I think the confidence right now is shot.
No, the confidence is certainly like today. It was not a good day for Cade York. Objectively, not
preseason for Cade York. Like,
well, I mean, he had the 2 the 2 kicks in the last preseason game. He made both. Like, what else is he supposed to do in the preseason?
How positive were you about Cade York going into the season?
No, I wasn't positive about him.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no. I wasn't positive about him. I'm sure it would potentially affect play calling, but suddenly getting yet another guy and setting the precedent that we're in this week in, week out thing, maybe he just needs some security. I don't know. But clearly we haven't figured out the kicker, right?
Brandon McManus. I'm joking.
Hey, listen, you see the news? No. Anyway, let's go ahead and go to the comment mailbag where we have, let's see, 1, 2. Well, excuse me. It's over to you, K-Dot and Nikki.
Comment mailbag time, motherfuckers. District divided, ain't got time for no suckers. Spread the word, get in line. OGs and new G's, it's your time. And spread the gospel, cause this shit is divine. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Appreciate that as always. Beginning with Young Fly Rye shout out. First prediction is Washington 31, Tampa 21. Jayden Daniels, player of the game. That would have been awesome. Blood Clot went 24-13 Washington MVP. Jayden Daniels as well. Appreciate you both for those predictions there. We have Coach Lombard. Welcome back. Predicting Tampa 28, Washington 20. Antoine Winfield Jr., the player of the game. I would say, K-Dot, the player of the game here was probably Baker, if not Mike Evans. It's got to be Baker. Yeah, Baker crushed. We go over to Jim Sleazy over here. Shout out 48-17 of the last video. Feels like that's a post I said maybe before or after the first preseason game. This is in relation to Luke McCaffrey. Remember this. That being said, I stand by that statement. Scrappy McCaffrey is a legacy hire. I don't buy that pedigree shit because if it was real, he'd be competing at some SEC school instead of Rice. Should have kept Curtis Samuel, but it looks like this offense is going to be a short passing offense. So it looks like they don't need that much talent at receiver, just a bunch of downfield blockers. So I think there are 2 parts to that. I don't think of Luke McCaffrey as a legacy hire at all. I think even in this game, he showed flashes of really nice stuff, almost scored. And then he needed to keep his feet in for the 2-point conversion. But I like Luke McCaffrey a lot. Obviously, K-Dot, you do too. I'll let you speak to it in a moment. The short passing offense thing, I am curious to see if that is what this offense ends up becoming. We missed the deep shot, and Jayden Daniels even said in his postgame presser, hey, I had to keep taking that because a lot of it was taken away. You're going to see the all 22 and tell us if that's true or not. But he clearly wants to take more shots downfield. So we'll see what happens. K-Dot, the floor is yours.
Curtis Samuel's salary alone makes him a non-starter for me. Look, you might want to use buzzwords or phrasing, whatever, like legacy hires or nepo babies or whatever the fuck. I'm sorry. If I'm looking at a family tree that involves Christian and Ed McCaffrey, fuck off. I'm going to look at that. It's a thing called genetics. And typically when it comes to some of these athletes, it might be something to look at just a little bit even. And look, what it is that Luke McCaffrey was supposed to come in here and be the next fucking Justin Jefferson. I don't think anybody's looking at that to be that case. But as far as what I've been saying is that what I look at him being is an amazing safety valve for this offense and for Jayden Daniels. I think that is well within his abilities. I'm not looking at that as being a Hall of Fame fucking career. I'm looking at it as to be a contributing member of this offense going forward. I'm not saying he has to be his brother Christian or Ed. I'm not looking for that. But him being a contributor. And who gives a fuck if he went to Rice or anything else? How many guys that go to small schools end up becoming something here, right? Like, I don't want to hear that level of negativity. If you want to keep it to like, hey, I looked at the film, I looked at everything with Luke McCaffrey, I just don't like the dude. I don't think he's capable of doing it. Just say that. But all the other stuff that you're putting on top of it like that, I just think it's completely unnecessary.
We go over, yeah.
Yeah, I could continue, but I'll stop.
We go over to Just Be 327 shout out. Things I'm concerned about. Mike Davis, dude gave up 9 touchdowns last year in San Diego, LA. In the preseason games, he bit on the stop and go 3 times. Concerned about the other side in St. Just. Offense, I'm concerned about the O-line, specifically right tackle. finally, not playing these guys in the preseason is going to bite them in the ass. I live in Florida, and the heat and humidity is no joke. Keep up the good work, fellas. HTTC. Honestly, I mean, I think the comment is pretty good, especially talking about the heat in Florida. It felt like 102, according to the broadcast at certain points, felt like 99 just a couple hours later. So for it to only drop to 3 degrees, it's a hot game. There were mistakes, discipline mistakes. That's aside from flags, as Dan Quinn also mentioned in his postgame presser. It could be lane discipline, for example. It could be holding your zone in the secondary. A lot of concerns over there, rather issues, and we'll see if those turn into concerns moving forward. K-Dot, your reaction to the comment?
You see this shit all the time. They always talk about like the record of teams going down to Florida, especially early on in the season. It sucks.
Tough.
Florida sucks. Yeah, it really does suck. If Florida could just wash away when it comes to global warming, they'd be like the island of Miami. That's great.
Miami Island.
Miami Island.
Sounds good.
No, I like the island of Miami.
Okay. That's fair. We used to live on Fairmont Street in Columbia Heights, and one of my friends called it the Fairmont Lounge, and I like to call it the lounge at Fairmont. Just sounded a bit.
It just sounds a little much.
There's a little more to it. I completely agree with you there.
Je ne sais quoi.
Did Mike Davis even play? I don't remember seeing.
I didn't see him at all. I recognized the real
counts as well. I couldn't find those yet. I don't think they've published those anywhere just yet. And I was like, I don't even remember if the guy played. So apologies if you did. I mean, anyway, we go over to Bindell. Oh, geez, shout out.
Van Dapp.
See, let's go, guys. Plain, simple, to the point. Appreciate the comment. As always, Vindo, go to Coach Lombard. Any prop bets for Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas, Andrew Wiley, BSJ, or Emmanuel Forbes? Any prop bets, such as?
Last time I checked, like FanDuel doesn't do pancakes.
Right.
I mean, if you meant like just in general theory, like, do we
like
see anything?
Flags or no?
Yeah, I mean,
prop bets, like a bet that you would place.
And what were
like
the names?
If we made them up, I guess it's Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas, Andrew Wiley. So 2 left tackles and the right tackle, BSJ, or Emmanuel Forbes.
I didn't have any prop bets going in. I mean, I would say that if I did have any prop bets, they sort of exceeded all expectations in the sense of like, if everybody was talking about the offensive line from last year and then looking at this year and then seeing Jayden Daniels getting sacked twice, one was really weird. The other was like, so it's like, I always think there could be more development there. I think they could have been doing more as far as even some of the run blocking, but also again, I looked at an offense that I'm not going to say was completely lost, but definitely looked like they were trying to figure out their rhythm.
Yeah.
A little too much to be anything.
That's fair. Go over to Big Papa Grizzly. Shout out. Week 1 is the best chance any team has to pull off a crazy upset. Look at the Bengals beating the Patriots.
Not crazy.
I'm sorry, the other way around. Patriots beating the Bengals, not crazy. What was crazy was the Saints smoking the Panthers. That made no sense. I love the Commanders' chances to go out and shock the world. Nobody has seen Cliff's offense with Jayden Daniels. Nobody knows what Tampa is going to have to deal with. I think it starts out rough, but a few short completions combined with solid runs from Brian Robinson and Austin Ekeler help to settle everyone into a good rhythm. 27-24 Commanders get the dub. I'll give the nod to B-Rob to be the standout on offense. Look for Frankie Louvu to have a monster game. He and Jeremy Chin has the most experience playing against Tampa. K-Dot, your reaction as I check my phone for whatever you said.
Man, don't read it out loud. You gotta open.
Oh, is that real?
Yeah, that happened.
Oh, come on. Do I got to change?
Yeah, your take on the Panthers is your Carson Wentz. You're having.
We don't overreact to week 1.
No, we don't. We don't. Even though
I'm not a fan of.
I was right about Joe Burrow. I can tell you that much.
Go ahead.
I don't even remember the comment. Yeah.
Well, okay. So Big Papa Grizzly, 27-24 Commanders
Papa.
was the prediction. Brian Robinson to be the offensive player of the game, and Frankie Louvu being the defensive player.
We were all wrong.
Anything else? Well, Brian Robinson looked nice. He popped.
He wasn't playing a fucking game. I mean, I guess if you had to pick a commander to be the commander, now that would still be Jayden.
I think it would still be Jayden. Anyway, we go over to Earl Bruce. Appreciate the comment as always. Big
It ain't
Papa
Cade
Bruce.
York. No,
He's going through enough. Okay, he's going through enough.
Let's give him one more chance.
Earl Bruce.
Put it all together.
I don't know what to do with the kicker because if we release him and then the next guy sucks, we're just doing this.
Look, I've been watching football all day, so I'm a little punch drunk. Did you see? I just got sent something while we were doing this.
Okay.
And this is early on the Commanders thing, but did you see they asked Malik Neighbors about Daniel Jones?
Oh no, I cannot wait to see it though.
His comment is, "I don't know what's going on back there."
He did not say that. He said that?
Yeah.
Week 1 into this thing?
So at least we're not them.
The thing is, in that situation, if I'm Malik, it's not the worst comment in the world because we just had the hard knocks of Joe Shane and Brian Daboll going anyone but him, basically. And then Saquon goes off for 3 touchdowns on Friday after they let him go.
Fucking nuts, right?
I mean, it's a tough time. We play them next. Let's focus. We go to Earl Bruce. I love the unknown, so I'm psyched for the first game. Will Jayden Daniels be able to read Bowles' blitzes? Todd Bowles. Will he be able to go deep? Will the defense contain Tampa? Will the special teams be dynamic? The season will answer many questions. The answer to many of those was no for this first one. But again, a lot of season to go. Coach Lombard, once again, Washington can use the read option and RPO to dictate to an aggressive defense. I agree with that. Could have.
Twice? And once?
Yeah.
It was once or twice. The Wildcat doesn't really count for that.
I would have liked to have done it more. We talked about this. We would have liked to have seen it more. We go over to Vindo one more time. Shout out. Tampa Bay has a good defense. This is after the game. Okay, so these next 2 comments, there's one from Coach Lombard as well. These are after the game. Tampa Bay has a good defense and was a great challenge for Jayden Daniels. And I think he did okay. Wish he passed it down the field more, but he looked calm and didn't force anything. And that's something we have been missing in a long time. Plus, the ability to average 90+ rushing yards is great. I just wish the would have had less design. Okay, wish the offense would have had less designed QB runs. I had to figure out what the word was.
Wasn't they?
On the goal line.
They would have.
That makes way more sense. You are correct. I just wish they would have had less designed QB runs on the goal line. Thank you for the assist there, K-Dot. That's the comment from Vinda. Yeah, the design QB runs, like you said, I'm also not a fan of. I don't mind the scrambles if nothing's on and there's a lot of space. I'm cool with that. So I think he did a good job of that. I agree with you, and you talked about this before the draft. If he sees one read and immediately feels some pressure and he's just going to take off, I'm once again hopeful that that is not something that is a mainstay in his career, and that this is something where they look at film and go, "See, you keep your eyes up, like you'll be able to do some stuff with that."
It's the Mike Vick of it all. And you had to listen to Vick talk about it years after his career was even over, in the sense of like what I saw from Jayden is one of the things that I was always positive of when it came to Jayden was his natural instincts and ability in the open field as far as running. You can't teach that. He just has it. To know where lanes to kind of go and like I'm taking off and there's room for me to do that. That's just natural God-given just ability. Only a few guys in the history of the league truly have that. Okay.
Yeah.
What you have to couple that with is putting basically, you have to limit yourself sometimes to doing things that work within the confines of the offense to get the most bang for your buck. And that's where he's at that point where he needs to learn it. I did not see enough of him looking downfield. I saw way too much of when he saw the lane he was going to go. There were absolutely some times where you could tell in the pocket he was not necessarily aware of when the pressure was going to come. I do like that it means in certain cases he's pretty fucking brave. But my main thing more than anything is just learn how to fucking slide better, put a goddamn helmet on that fits, and stop chewing your does the guard work if you're chewing it? like
I don't know. I'm kind of, dude, if that's what makes him feel comfortable.
No,
and
you know that the biggest thing to me that was my biggest I love this. That dumb fucking smile never left his face.
It was awesome. He was locked in the whole time.
He was talking to dudes, and you see like the defense is like laughing and shit.
Levante David, 5'4", come here. Like he operates like a vet, which is so cool to see. Like he's already got a lot of respect from people. ended up having pretty solid outing for a rookie debut. Against 17-24 is not bad.
Arguably
184
outside
yards.
of the loss, the best rookie quarterback performance we've seen this weekend.
Yep, absolutely. And we conclude with Coach Lombard. I said it what feels like months ago. You have 0 blue chip players. You had 3 red chip players last season. Terry, Allen, and Payne. Will be interesting to see who you have this season. That's the comment from Coach. K. Your reaction.
Jury's out.
Jury's out. I
will tell you this. If they're after week 1, you're more right than me.
Yeah. But 17 more weeks to go. Long season to go. And let me tell you this, it's not decided in 1 week, and it's certainly not decided in 2 weeks because we started 2-0 last season. Look what happened after that. So there's a lot of season to go still. Okay?
Unless you're the Panthers.
A lot of season to go still.
I feel really good about all my predictions after week 1, I will tell you that.
That's fair. We could talk about this on maybe the Friday pod. We can go
Pittsburgh
through the
defense.
NFL a little bit. Pittsburgh, TJ Watt just continues to. We'll talk about this another time. This was The Shelf. This was District Divided DC Sports Podcast. More specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. Unfortunately, a Misery Monday episode, but we hope to get back to winning ways this coming week when we play the New York Giants. We will have an episode for you guys Friday, 2 p.m. where we preview that game. And before you guys leave, once again, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment as you always do, and K-Dot.
Don't talk about cocaine if you want to monetize your fucking YouTube channel. And share this
shit. That. Share this shit. We greatly appreciate it. We will see you guys Friday, 2 p.m. So until then, take it easy.
Bye, everybody.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.